So the last couple days, I went into some lives over the whole Charlie Kirk thing, and I learned a word that I didn't hear before. It was called groiper. And after doing some, searching, uh, basically, for those who don't know what that is, a groiper is a member of an internet army of Nick Fuentes fans. And so, the Wikipedia article, of course, was a basic foundation. And basically, for those who don't know, uh, Charlie Kirk doesn't want anything to do with Nick Fuentes, and Nick Fuentes doesn't like this. And so Charlie Kirk doesn't debate Fuentes, and he didn't want to even be near him. So what Nick does is he will send his little army of people to these events to ask inflammatory questions to basically gauge where Charlie Kirk is on the right. And Nick Fuentes is a modern day neo-Nazi. So he's actually more far right than Kirk is. And so one incident, it was at Ohio State, and I looked up the video and I saw some clips, and then I later leaned into a video that obviously came from a pro Groiper account, and they basically were asking questions that were really inflammatory, and Charlie's reactions to them was, he could see what was happening, but one of the things is that Charlie was calling out how one of the questions was very racist, and that was just really surprising to me. I've never seen a fight between two right-wing conservatives like this before. And in one of the lives I was in, I would blatantly say that, Charlie was a racist and a white supremacist. And the people, of course, didn't want to, agree, or they didn't want to believe me when I was, saying that he said certain things. And it got me thinking that it's highly possible that these people don't either know or even see this type of Charlie that, somebody like me and other people who are much more far left compared to him see. And of course, that's because of our, inner blinders. But also, I think it's because of echo chambers. Because, to a lot of people, Charlie was a Christian or a free speech activist or whatever. And I think this is how they genuinely thought of him, because that was how he was interpreted through their lens and their echo chamber. And when I said that he was a fascist and a white supremacist and a racist, these people didn't want to say that. And it's highly possible that they saw the same video I saw when it came to the Nick Fuentes people. And comparatively speaking, yeah, Charlie is not as racist as Nick Fuentes people are. And then because white people don't want to admit that they are internally racist, they're going to think that, oh, Charlie is not racist because Nick Fuentes is obviously racist. So I see why these people are so deluded like that. And one of the things mentioned in the more, neutral live I was in, they were saying that it was highly possible that the person that got Charlie was a groiper and a Nick Fuentes follower. And now they released a photo of what the guy possibly was, and now just a few minutes ago, they say that he's been turned in by his family. So if more information comes out, it would be very interesting to find out if this guy was basically a Nick Fuentes fan or just somebody who was much more far to the right, because apparently to these Nick Fuentes fans, Charlie is not far enough right. He basically does not toe the line of what conservatism is. And doing a dive, there's still a pipeline on YouTube to the alt-right. And one video I ultimately came across is an obvious alt-right pipeline starter. One, because of how they present the factions of liberals, but also their explanation of socialists, calling them liberals, which of course we're not. But to them, the alt-right and to the far left, far right, of course, socialists are liberals because anybody who's left of them is a liberal. But they were talking about how these factions are on the alt-right, and people like Nick Fuentes are considered on the fringe, and they don't want nothing to do with conservatives. And a while ago, I interacted with a video where it was, in retrospect, a neo-Nazi account, but he said something very interesting about how he was criticizing conservatives, and it was very confusing to me. Why would people on the far right criticize conservatives? Now I understand. Because they feel that people like Charlie and just anybody who is in the right wing, because of their accommodation to these marginalized groups, they think that they've gone soft, or they think that they've gone liberal, or that they are being pushed far to the left. They talk about how the right wing are being pushed to the left, and that's just obviously not true. But I would not be surprised if the guy who got Charlie was a member of the neo-Nazis. This just shows how little I know and understand about white people in general, and just the far right and just the right wing, because I grew up as a crunchy white liberal, a left-leaning Democrat, liberal. And of course, over time, I went farther and farther left. But there was a point in my life where if I was exposed to the wrong stuff and I had the wrong things happen to me in my life, I definitely would have gone alt-right. But of course, there's something inside me that just allowed me to pick on the more left-leaning stuff. And then I ventured into socialist. But I know a lot of comrades who used to be near the alt-right, and then eventually they became socialists. So it's crazy, this whole fight that goes on between the factions.